All right, so we're live now. Nobody's watching.
You got me on full screen.
All right, so we're live. Yeah, I know. Let's see. What am I doing now? Go here. See if I can get.
Well, that's if everybody that's subscribed to your channel too has put on the notifications.
Let me see. What the hell am I trying to do here?
Because I notice if I'm on a channel that I haven't been on in a long time, it will turn the notifications off if I'm not like going and watching their videos. So I'm wondering if a lot of people you're subscribed to or that are subscribed to this channel probably haven't been to it in a while and they're probably not even getting notified.
No, I mean, it always takes a few minutes, but I mean, that's why I put it up a couple hours ago, but that's true. And
well, because honestly, your other channel, you would have had 12, 13 people in the chat already.
That's probably true. Let's see.
Because last time you went live on your other channel, you had at least 5 to 8 people already waiting in the chat before you even started.
You know what's funny is I tried to identify it as being a political video and all that, and I got more views than I did on just my flying drone.
Political content is actually one of the most successful content channels you can have on YouTube. Like you'll get the most views, you'll get a lot of subscribers. It's actually one of the biggest money-making channels on YouTube too. That's why you see a lot of these other political commentators on YouTube, their channels are pretty successful. Because like you go into Tim Pool's channel, the younger kid that I put you on, and he'll have anywhere between 40 to 60,000 people watching one of his live streams.
Yeah.
And he actually does more. What's really crazy is some of his videos, he was talking about the other day, his videos will do more views than like a CNN video or like a MSNBC video will on the same topic.
Let's see. All right, I'm not used to broadcasting on other channels, so I'm trying to work this out. Let's see. See, I'm not showing up yet on my drone channel. When I go,
I got you pulled up right here on YouTube. But if it says there's one person watching, it's probably me, because I always use my phone to pull up the chat. Yeah, on my end, it's saying nobody's watching, but it may show you that one person's watching, but it's probably because I got my phone pulled up. That's usually what I do because I use a Chromebook and I only have a 15-inch screen. I blow you guys up, make it full screen, and then I pull up the channel on my phone and use it for the chat. Then I put my phone on the little tripod like right here. And I put it next to the computer.
I'm sorry, I'm multitasking here, so I can't see what you're showing me. Oh, I see it now. Okay, gotcha. All right, so I'm in with my other channel, and I'm just going to be. Is it? I don't know. It says Ed Political Channel at the bottom, so maybe that's not what my drone.
Well, I got you pulled up on your Ed Political channel on my YouTube.
Well, I'm going to be self-righteous and not self-righteous. That's the wrong word. But I'm going to go ahead and give me my first thumbs up. I don't know. It's weird because I opened. Okay, I opened. I need to go back to the StreamYard thing because this isn't working right.
I always
Too much
thumbs up my own
lag.
videos.
Pop out chat. Let's see.
I always give
It's
myself my
weird
1 to
because
3 thumbs up.
I opened up. I opened up 2 different Google windows. Okay. And on one Google window, I was signed in as Ed's political channel, and the other one was my drones.
Huh.
And all right, cat, buddy, cat, Alfredo Montero. So it's weird because I kind of thought when I go from one window to the next, that one would be Love My Drones and one would be Ed, Ed political channel. But that's not how it's working. It's been very confusing. Let's see. Gotta get in the right place. Here we go. Oh, I'm getting there now. So no one's here other than us. There's one watching. I don't know if that includes you or not, Justin.
It does
I
because
guess
I
it
got
does.
it. Yeah, because I have it pulled up on a separate device. I have the channel.
Ah, gotcha.
Oh wait, there's one person. Drone Days just popped in.
Oh, hey, Drone Days. How are you? Hey, brother.
What's up?
Oh, I got something. I can take care of this right away, Drone Days.
But it also is the middle of the day on Tuesday too, so some people might.
I know 3 o'clock is early. Nobody knows me. I have like 71 subscribers, whatever. Should tweet it out. Tweet it out. Share it. Everybody says that.
I share everybody's live stream usually on my Facebook, but it's all family and shit. They don't have no interest in watching any of that stuff. I'll get like 1 or 2 people that'll like it, but they don't ever come watch it. On union break, he says.
So are you working today, Bob? What are you doing, Bob? Oh, there's Dan. Hey, Dan, how you doing? So hey, I fixed it. I gotta take care of him too.
Yeah, I was surprised that the medical examiner took so long to come back with Brian Laundrie's autopsy report and all that.
Yeah, I mean, really, the Rittenhouse stuff and all that has kind of overshadowed anything about. I mean, I heard he was dead and all that. I just hadn't heard the coroner's report. So I don't know. He knew I guess in the end, he realized he was a scumbag and he decided to as Dan would say, fix shit. And he did it by sticking a gun to the side of his head.
Yeah, he I guess took the easy way out, like you said earlier. Must have felt like he was backed in a corner or something, but
All right, so Dan is saying I need to get on a topic and get with it. Okay, so let's get with it. All right. First of all, Biden shutting down all our oil production and now he's pulling from the strategic oil reserves. Now, Dan, you're not that old, but do you remember Jimmy Carter? You probably don't. I do. And he had to do the same thing. But just 11 months ago, we were energy independent, producing our own oil and gas and actually exporting it. And now, 10 months later, we're begging OPEC and Russia to pump more oil. Now, all I got to say is WTF. What the hell? Come on, man. That's ridiculous. So I have said before, everybody's able to re-identify themselves. So I am identifying myself as LGBFJB. Okay. Let go, Brandon. F Joe Biden basically is what that stands for. So that part of it. Let's see. What else did I want to say?
Well, like Drone Days said, he said pulling from the reserve is not good because they might need that down the road, and that's the whole point of the reserve. And we also have a story, the one coming out of Wisconsin, about the driver that he ran over. I believe it was 40 people and killed 5. And there's 5 confirmed deaths that I know of so far.
And they were all old people. Not that that makes it any better, but 4 of them were or 3 of them were the dancing grannies or something like that. Now, this guy is a nut job. You see his picture. I don't have a picture to throw up on the screen. Apologize for that. But this guy looks like a terrorist. I don't know. He looks like a criminal to me. But who am I to judge? But he just got out of jail like 2 or 3 days before this happened on a $500 bond. It's ridiculous.
But yeah, they saw a lot on his Facebook page too, that he obviously is a Black Lives Supporter matter. And then apparently he had posted some information about how to get away with hitting people with a car, how to get away with it.
Oh, I didn't know. I had not heard that.
And it was using an excuse of, and it was like they were trying to say he was trying to use the excuse that he was being chased by somebody, and that's why he ran through the crowd. But I mean, it's still a preliminary investigation too. I mean, not everything's out. We can't really say it was politically motivated. Even if he had that on his page, I mean, it doesn't necessarily prove anything at the moment. But that is insanely crazy that he would just run over that many people. But it was so weird because he went down the road and he missed so many people. And he was actually dodging certain people. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he just decided to veer off into the fucking crowd out of nowhere.
See, and that's the thing is, from the clips I've seen, I mean, I've seen some horrible clips, but I mean, it's almost like, I don't know if you could say he's swerved or whatever, but maybe that was just a busy area of the street, because the first video I saw, he obviously missed some opportunities if his intent was to just mess up as many people as he could. Okay. You could see the people waving the flags and all those and all that. And he went right by the side of them, didn't clip any of those, So who knows, man? I just think he was crazy as shit. Maybe on drugs or something. Who knows?
So
Um,
I have an article pulled up. It said 5 people were killed and more than 40 were injured
yeah.
in the chaos. Let me see here.
But from what we've seen so far, this has nothing to do with Rittenhouse. It has nothing to do with Rittenhouse. He's just a crazy mother that, I don't know, has a lot of history behind him, you know?
So he was, from what it says online, he was a registered sex offender out of Nevada. He had an active arrest warrant in that state. He was also released on bond this month after allegedly running over a woman who said she's the mother of his child this month, according to court documents. So apparently, a woman was claiming that she had his baby, and then he ran her over with his car. So apparently, he likes to use his car as a weapon. That's pretty much all that article says about it. So he's
You
definitely
know what? And I've said this numerous other places, and just you know, the gun control people and all that stuff that talk about, oh, carrying a deadly weapon, and it's like many people in the United States drive a deadly weapon every day, and you can certainly wreak a lot of mayhem with that. Now, Dan was saying in the chat, Burger King uses kills people in the by the minute. We should hold Burger King accountable. Now that's pretty funny, Dan.
I wouldn't say it's
If,
Burger King's fault because you make a choice to do that. Same with driving a
well, not
car. If
only that,
you choose to use it as a weapon, that's not the manufacturer's fault. Same
well,
with
not
guns.
only
If you
that,
choose,
but I would I think I would hold McDonald's more accountable for that than I would Burger King. I
I
actually
mean,
like Burger King. It's been
it's the same
forever
with
since I.
guns. Guns don't just kill people; it's the person holding the gun that does it.
Man, I can't remember the last time I had some French fries, Bob. So I don't know. We all make poor choices in our lives. Just hopefully, see the thing is, here's the difference. It's the choices that we make. If it only affects us and it's detrimental, that's okay. You ask for it, whatever. It's when you make choices that affect other people's lives that matter. And that's when you were taking their freedom and liberty from them. And that is my whole this is what I've always thought about politics and why I've always gravitated to the Republican side of things versus the Democrat side of things is that the Democrats want to control all this COVID shit, all the shit that's gone down with COVID. This is all about control. Okay. Um, the Republicans are, are supposed to be all about freedom and liberty. Granted, there's a lot of rhinos out there that have, oh, they say they're moderate. Okay. Um, but they side with the Dems, but um, this is the way I look at it. I mean, I kind of lean libertarian. I smoke a little weed, and whatever. But I'm basically a conservative, and I believe in conservative values. And this flows into flying drones. I mean, flying drones, you feel like you have freedom and liberty, but they're trying to take that away. You know, freedom and liberty means that you have the right to do anything you want as long as it does not infringe on the freedom or liberty of somebody else. Oh, and the right to pursue happiness. Okay. And this is what's driving me crazy about this migrant surge that's coming across the southern border because they're all like, oh man, let's go to the United States and get our freedom and liberty and uh, the life thing. What's the whole saying? I forgot. I lost it, Justin. But the thing is like, well, wait a minute. You haven't been working your whole life here. You don't deserve any money because you came here. You're not even supposed to be here. You're supposed to ask to be here. And then when we give permission, then you can come in. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it worked for hundreds of years. So that's my little rant on that. It just pisses me off.
Well, like you were saying though, the as far as like your personal freedoms, as long as you're not inciting any type of violence, it's like just like the freedom of speech. You can say racial stuff, you can say whatever you want all day. If you go by the way the Constitution was wrote, hate speech doesn't exist. It's when you incite violence through your speech, that's when it becomes a legal issue. But as long as you're not inciting violence, then you have the right to say whatever you want.
All right, Dan. Okay, Dan. You're taking my words wrong. Freedom, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. First of all, money can't buy you happiness, although it would probably buy me some right now. But I'm just saying, look, hey, Dan, it's okay if you're Democrat. We don't hate you for that. It's just that, Democrats are different now than they used to be. I mean, I was all about JFK, the first Democrat to cut taxes I think there ever was. But it is not okay when you're making the bank go rob a bank analogy is just completely no. You sound like what's her name, Joy Reid, or who's that idiot on the View. I hope you don't watch The View, Dan. I would be very disappointed if you watch that. Who is that woman? What's
Isn't it
her name?
Joe? Isn't it Behart?
Yes, that's it. Oh my God. And oh, Whoopi's bad too. Whoopi's bad. Whoopi. Is it Whoopi or Whoopi? It's Whoopi.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Um, I mean, holy crap, man. It's just ridiculous. I'm just saying, okay, look, robbing the bank. Okay, you go back to robbing. Let's go back to robbing the bank, Dan. And that is that, okay, when you rob the bank, you are infringing on the freedom of and liberty of others to conduct a business. You are impacting them. So therefore, you're impacting their freedom and liberty. That's all. I mean, it's really very simple rule, but you're right. Some people do not. Some people try and justify, and I remember, hey, look, I'll be the first to say, when I'm 15, 16 years old, I've done a little shoplifting, a candy bar here, bag of chips here. Oh, books. The main thing I shoplifted was books. And my justification was, oh, it's a corporation. They'll never feel it. You'll never know. It was hardly like what happened last night or the night before in San Francisco and Chicago. People busting in the store and taking thousands of dollars out. It's a flash mob, if you will. Just like, oh, this is owed to me. I should have it.
Well, that's why so many businesses are leaving San Francisco right now, because of the issue with the $950 rule. If anything under that, they're not prosecuting for at the moment. And so you got mobs of people that are running into the stores, and they're each taking right under that amount, and it's adding up to, it can add up to thousands of dollars over the course of just a couple minutes. It can be $20,000-$30,000 worth of merchandise gone.
You know what, Dan? You're welcome anytime. You are. And you probably blow me away in a debate. I'm kind of slow at times, but you know what's funny, Dan, is, and maybe you just want to be controversial, but you just didn't strike me as a lefty. Oh, that's interesting.
Which one am I allowed to use?
Doesn't matter.
That's an interesting statement there, Dan. I don't know. It just seems to me like Dan would be more about freedom and liberty. Now, I can't remember when I've ever heard anything Pelosi said recently that struck me as insightful or good, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, no. Let's get it straight though. Dan's Democrat, but I think your main issue, Ed, to what he's saying is there's a difference between left and far left. Your issue is with the far left. The far left are the ones that want to put they're the ones that want to put all the gun laws in place and are being over restricted with certain restrictions and stuff. They're the ones that are, I've seen far left people on YouTube saying that our freedom of speech doesn't matter when it comes to their feelings. Now that's more of a far left ideology than what I think Dan is. Dan's, like Dan said, he believes in some things Republicans do. He believes in something Democrats do. That's more of in the middle, I would say. He might be more Democrat, but I think your issue is more far left, where I don't think he's far left.
Absolutely, but
because the ideology of the two are completely different. Because I've met Democrats that are pro Second Amendment and pro freedom of speech and all that same things.
Absolutely.
But I've met people that are heavily involved in the LGBT community, as far as the really far left thinking LGBTQ, that think that their feelings matter over what I say because it offends them. And so they don't think I should have freedom of speech because it offends their feelings. That I don't agree with.
Well, I'm sure Dan doesn't agree with the cancel culture.
Well, read what he just wrote. He said, "See, I'm not for part of the far left. I know guns are necessary." You know what I'm saying? So there is a distinct difference between the left and the far left, and same with the right and the far right. There's also a very radical far right that thinks that everything should just be about certain religions and certain things, which I don't agree with. I don't think religion should be in school at all because it's a public institution, and you should keep religion and all that out of public schools and public settings. Any kind of government settings, anything like that could sway certain issues because of certain religious aspects and stuff like that.
I'm focused. I'm typing something. Excuse me. I had to do my my little. Dan,
Just
you're
like he says,
right about the male and female thing, but I gotta tell you, I now identify as this gender.
But that's the thing, though, is like I agree with him on that as well, because there's a lot of, like I said, I've seen people in that community that think their feelings matter over everybody else's free right to say what they want as far as free speech goes. And like I said, if you go by our Constitution and what it was based upon, hate speech doesn't exist in the United States. It's only when you incite violence through speech that right goes out the window for you. I could say all day, I don't like, this color person. I don't like this color person. But the minute I say go out and kill this person, now my freedom of speech doesn't exist no more because I incited violence through it. But when somebody tells me that my freedom of speech should be taken away because it offends their feelings, I don't agree with that. And also obviously, I would assume Dan doesn't agree with that as well. So I said there's a distinct difference between left and far left. Dan's definitely not far left. And I respect people on the left. It's the people on the far left that I have issues with. But I think their logic is completely fucking just off the wall. I just don't understand it from my point of view.
What schools need to be teaching is reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay? Some history is good. It shouldn't be modified history in that you teach kids that they are bad because they are white and oppressed if you were black or of color.
Well, that's what critical race theory is, and I don't agree with that either.
Exactly.
Because
I really don't have a problem with history. I read about when I was in school, and that's been longer ago than I care to admit. But I learned about slavery. I heard about slavery when I grew up, in the 60s. And I've used the N-word before. I'll admit to all of that. I had preconceived ideas, but that was the 60s. Look at how far we've come. I just don't understand how people don't see how far we've come. And that's what irritates me. It really irritates me more than anything.
This is why I don't like critical race theory, because in reality, I understand what they think it can do, but at the same time, it can cause more racism and more divide than it actually fixes.
I don't understand what they think it can do. Why are you going to tell a kid? Why are you going to tell a kid? And I've seen black people come on like on a conservative, like Fox News or whatever, and literally stand there and like, I don't want somebody to teach my kid that they can't achieve something because of their skin color. You know what I mean? And to me, racism kids don't know racism. They are taught it. They are taught it perhaps by their parents or whatever. But I've seen many of black and white kid playing together. They don't care.
But critical race theory, actually, some parts of it will actually tell you that you're inherently racist because you're a certain color. And if you're telling a bunch of small children, say in 5th grade, 4th grade, whatever grade, that, hey, you're the problem because you're white, guess what? Then they maybe themselves, it may cause them to become racist because now they feel backed in a corner like everybody hates them. And the same with black kids. You know what I'm saying? You tell a black kid their whole life, you can't achieve nothing. You're a victim. You're a slave to the system. Guess what? They're not going to grow up and want to really be accomplished at all, because in their mindset, that's all they are. But if you tell any kid, it don't matter what color, if you constantly tell them, you can work hard, you grow up, you can achieve what you want to achieve if you work hard and put your, nose to the books and do what you got to do in school and everything, they're more likely to succeed versus telling a kid their whole life that they're a victim and that they can't succeed because of systemic racism that these days doesn't exist, because it's easier for a black child or for any kind of Spanish descent, Mexican, whatever, to get into a college than it is for a white child or even an Asian child. Even Asians are despaired when it comes to getting into colleges, because they're actually the most successful race in the United States. Out of all races, they're actually the most successful. And they even have, a white kid and an Asian kid can score higher on an ASVAB test to get in somewhere, or what is it, the tests to get into college, and a black child can score lower, and actually they'll accept the black kid over the white kid every day. So there's actually laws in place that actually help certain races to achieve certain things and make it actually harder. So can you call that white privilege when you have actually more privilege to get into a university than I do?
That's called reverse discrimination. And it's been going on for a while, ever since what was that phrase they used to use? It was I can't remember what the phrase was. It's been going on for a while. What was it? If you were of color, you got preferential treatment. It's been around for a while. There you go, Dan.
Damn it, I can't think of the name of it now. I'm having a mind blank as well. Hold on.
Well, it's been around so long, we just learned to accept it, I guess. Man, it drives me crazy. I can't think of that. Let's see. Did I write anything else down? Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about too was the media's been going crazy about Rittenhouse being starts with a D. That's not any help, Bob. What the hell? Roar. Shit. What the hell is that called? So anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention was that there was another self-defense case that just ended in the defendant getting innocent of the charges or innocent of murder because of self-defense. And he was a black guy. Oh no, he was a black guy. Yeah. And it was a just case. I agree with it. It's cool. They still got him on a gun charge, but he was a felon with a gun. But the FBI, I think it was the FBI, they busted in on him, and he didn't know what the hell was going on. I don't know why they were there. I can't even remember that either. But he ended up killing a couple cops. Well, they came in and, he was scared. I don't know. He had his weapon and he shot him. And anyway, and the bottom line is he was innocent. They found him innocent. It took him 4 years to get that innocent. But, so you can blame that on the, maybe if you want racial inequality, because it took him 4 years to be innocent. It only took Rittenhouse, just over a year, year and 3/4, I think it was. But I mean, it was a more complicated case because it was felon with a gun. I don't know what other charges there were, but in the end, the justice system made him innocent of the charge of murder. So none of the media have talked about this except Fox. Fox brought it up at one time, but oh, now I want to go into the oil stuff. Did I already go into the oil stuff? Anyway, I'm seeing it on Fox News. I got Fox News up here, and they're talking about Biden releases oil from reserve.
Well, he wanted to blame. Well, we can talk a little bit more about that because he actually wanted to blame the oil companies for this whole price hike, but it was a lot of it had to do with him shutting down the pipeline that was being built, and he stopped the fracking and the drilling, and all that has been extremely diminished. I mean, they're still drilling in certain places, but it's far and few in between of where it was, 12 months ago or so.
Well, they and by the way, Bob Day's got it right. Affirmative action. That's what it was. That was the name of the program. I think Jimmy Carter started that. I'm not sure who started that. Affirmative action. But
I mean, Biden's blaming the oil companies for something that he did.
I mean, I think we talked about this before I went live, Dustin, but going back to the oil thing was that the first day Biden became president, he stopped fracking in Pennsylvania, I guess it was. He might have stopped fracking all over. Stopped the Keystone Pipeline, stopped the border wall, stopped all the stuff. If Trump had something to do with it, he was stopping it. And that's just bullshit because I think everything Trump did was good.
I mean, it was just like how Trump did the executive order to lower costs of, medication, and then he immediately overturned that the first couple days he was in office for no apparent reason except for just Trump did it. Like I understand there's certain things that you don't agree with when you come into office that you might want to change with the previous administration, but when you're just overturning random shit because you're just doing it out of spite, to me that's a little asinine right there.
Look, I'll be the first to admit that Trump could be very obnoxious. But I liked his actions. I liked what he did, But he was like slamming the hell out of it, during the debate. I thought the debate was embarrassing. The debate embarrassed me. But I think Biden took a little animosity towards that when he became president because I don't know. That's just the way it looked like to me. But what disturbs me more than anything is that it seems that the woes that we are going through as a country are self-inflicted. Now, granted, COVID kind of really screwed things up. They screwed stuff up for Trump too. And so that has no bounds, but that's, and people talk about the response to COVID. Oh, Trump was so bad on the COVID response. No, I would have liked to have seen what would have happened had Biden been president when that shit first broke out, So
I'd say the biggest topic at the moment as far as because I think we've covered a lot of stuff as far as just internal issues. But I mean, if we go out to like some of the world issues at the moment, like the big issue would be Taiwan and China's aggression in the South China Sea. and what they're trying to do there, building these artificial islands so they can say that's their territory. And the UK, the US, and Australia are clearly not giving two shits because the Navy still cruises through there. And a lot of people will say, the Chinese Navy has the biggest naval force in the world. Technically, they do, but if you look at what naval vessels they have, at least 200-300 of those are just patrol ships. They're not actual warships. They're just patrol vessels. So that's how their numbers are inflated to make them look bigger than they are. They're just like a bunch of Coast Guard cutter type ships out there. They're no real threat to like a U.S. sub or a U.S. Aircraft carrier or destroyer. Because they're bigger than the U.S. by like a couple hundred ships now. But the technology, they're still far behind. Their carriers are a lot less capable than U.S. carriers. The planes on those carriers are a lot less capable because, like I said, I was telling you the other day when I was talking to you about that. The difference between U.S. carriers and Chinese carriers is U.S. carriers use catapult systems. Their planes are heavier. They can carry more ordnance. The U.S. carriers are a lot more advanced, where Chinese carriers use the jump catapult system, where their planes are smaller, they're lighter, they carry less ordnance, and their range is limited too. Not only is their carriers they're not nuclear powered, they're diesel powered, where U.S. carriers are all nuclear powered. The only other country that uses nuclear powered carriers is France.
Really?
All the rest of the countries in the world all use diesel powered carriers. And
I did not know that.
And they're all the jump ramp systems where it's just a ramp that the plane has to jump up to get its lift to get up off the carrier because it's not being catapulted.
That's gotta be a scary takeoff too.
But that's what I'm saying is like the everybody's so concerned about China. The only thing I would be concerned about is China would get their asses handed to them and they'd get backed into a corner and they would decide to use nuclear weapons because they have no other option. But to say the Chinese Navy even has the experience, the technology to take on the U.S. Navy, I think is a little foolish to say that they would even come close to that, because the thing is the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy alone, the experience they have on running global operations is unsurpassed. I mean, there's no country that they're second to none as far as experience wise. And I don't believe the Chinese Navy is a true threat to the U.S. Navy. I just don't believe it. The largest Air Force in the world is the U.S. Air Force. The second largest is the U.S. Navy, is the second largest Air Force in the world. And like I said, the technology, the experience is just so much greater than the Chinese military.
Well, I'm happy to hear your optimistic appraisal of the situation. China does scare me a little bit. I gotta admit, but not really.
Like
I have a lot scarier things that I'm worrying about other than China. I get China. China is a threat. But you're saying not as much as a threat as some people make it out to be. I think more of the threat is from them just cutting off our supply chain.
But they're
not
just
military action.
But see, they're just as dependent on us as we are them. If we decided tomorrow we weren't going to buy a single fucking thing from China anymore, their economy would collapse overnight. Not to say it wouldn't hurt our economy as well, but we're so intertwined right now that conflict would just be bad for both sides. But to my optimistic goes as far as if you were to put their military against ours, just one-on-one, just go at it, I don't think China could do it. I don't think they could beat
Okay.
us. I think our experience, our advanced weaponry, I think is far ahead of theirs. I mean, it's already been proven that our submarines alone are 20 years ahead of theirs and 10 years behind Russia as far as technology goes. Um, and everybody knows up till about 5 to 7 years ago, Chinese subs, a lot of them never even left port and went on missions. They didn't even train at all.
Oh,
And
really?
once they started actually leaving port and actually going out in the waters and doing training, a lot of U.S. subs were able to track and find them relatively easy. They found out that they were super easy to track. It wasn't hard to track their subs at all because they're super noisy. They're diesel powered. They're not nuclear powered. And like I said, the tech is just far behind where the U.S. tech goes. I mean, just to take on the 60, well, I think we have like 67 subs. Just to take on the U.S. submarine fleet alone is a nightmare in itself for any country because they're so advanced and they're so good at what they do that any country would be hard pressed to take on just the nuclear sub fleet.
And my salute goes out to the U.S. military. I mean, I know the military's been through a lot of shit. Over the last 10 months, the Afghanistan withdrawal was completely a clusterfuck, and it was no fault of theirs. It was their commander in chief's fault on
Exactly.
how things went down. And that jackass General Milley, Millie, however you say his bloody name, but um, as far as the U.S. military, my opinion of them, they're the finest in the world. Absolutely.
And if
And
you look at their closest allies, they're right up there. I would put British forces just as good as U.S. forces. They might be a lot smaller, but those boys know how to use their shit and they know how to fight. Same
yes,
with the
they do.
Australian military. They're small, but them boys know how to fight. And they're well trained, just like our military. There's a lot of, even the Japanese military, granted that they were mostly a self-defense force for the past 60, 70 years. But now that they're starting to make more of an offensive force, I mean, they're just as well trained and willing to fight as anybody else is. I mean,
And Israelis too.
I put any of our closest allies, I'll put them right up there and give them just as much respect as I would our own military. Because the SAS, the British Special Forces, those guys they work hand in hand with the SEALs all day long, and both of them will tell you that they have the most up respect for each other because they know that they both know that each other are the top tier. They don't think that they're better than each other. They work hand in hand. I mean, they train together. They've been on missions together. Those guys are just as good. But I wouldn't, like I told people, I wouldn't take the withdrawal from Afghanistan as the U.S. military won't fight or can't fight. Because
No,
it wasn't them that
absolutely.
pulled out. It was the politicians that pulled them out. But I would put the U.S. military against anybody any day as far as
And we were going to pull them out. Trump was going to pull them out, but he wouldn't have done it the way that shit show went down. So I just know in my heart that Trump would have done a better job. Now, could somebody have done a better job than Trump? I don't know. But could anybody have done a worse job than Brandon? I don't think so. Maybe what's her name, AOC or Nancy Pelosi or whoever. They could have done a worse job. Excuse me. Hell, they might have done a better job than Joe too. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know.
Because there was a lot of, top military personnel that weren't necessarily, that were on the ground in Afghanistan that didn't want to pull out because they made a lot of good contacts and a lot of good local allies over the years that they wanted to strategically stay there because, I mean, they just knew that it wasn't smart to pull out, and it was a good idea to stay there as a strategic stronghold.
Are you talking about Bagram?
Just staying in Afghanistan, period. A lot of them didn't want to pull out. They didn't want to leave because they made such good allies with local, war chiefs or whatever you want to call them, the local elders. They've been able to gather a lot of intel over the years. And when they pulled out, it made them look bad, but it wasn't their fault at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, I think we should have stayed at Bagram and with some troops there, of course, but just to man the station, keep an eye on things. You know what I mean? That's all.
Because, I mean, if tomorrow the U.S. military decided they wanted to go back in Afghanistan, they'd do it just like they did before. The Taliban would be wiped out within a month or two. They would have them on the run again to where they wouldn't have control. The only reason the Taliban got control is because the U.S. military was forced to leave by politicians at the time. But like, Jim was saying, Jim made a good point last time we were talking about this. They were holding that entire country together with 2,500 Marines.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to U.S. power, all it takes is a small force to deter an aggressive force from wanting to attack, because they know at the end of the day that's going to be a bad idea to do.
Well, I mean, like with Bagram, I mean, that was quite a fort they built there. It really was. Had huge runways. You could land any plane there. And sensors all over. Could monitor China, keep an eye on China, close eye on China, and everything else around in the region, including Pakistan. Who else are the major players? Russia's right there too,
Iran.
Yeah,
I mean,
Iran, all
Iran's lucky that the U.S. military wasn't able to respond when they shot missiles at our bases. Because if it was up to those guys on the ground, they would have fucking sent a hellfire storm back into Iran. If it wasn't for the government stopping them, trust me, if they would have wanted to retaliate, they would have done it, and they would have done it with an overwhelming force. The Iran would have wished they wouldn't have shot those missiles, but because they were held in restraint like a damn dog, they weren't able to respond. But if they would have responded, it would have been bad for Iran. Real bad.
And see, here's the deal. I mean, how is this that much different from the politicians in some of these cities and stuff where riots have gone on, where they told the cops to stand down? It's the same. It's basically the same principle.
Yeah, it is.
They were telling the military not to do this, and in our own cities, we tell the cops not to do that. You know what I mean?
But like I said, you can tell, like down in Florida, we didn't have a lot of issues when all this damn protesting and shit was going on. Shit, we didn't have none of that issues down here because the cops down here don't fucking play, and neither does the state government. That's why I said we have a good, unique system down here that works very well as far as the local, the county, and the state government. They all are on the same page, and they all work hand in hand with each other to make sure shit is flowing correctly and done the right way. You know what I'm saying? In other states, you'll have sheriffs that will say, well, not in my county, but then the state government's on a whole different mindset than what that one county is. So then you have interdivisional issues within that state. You know what I'm saying? Where here, our governor, when Grady Judd gets on the news and says, we shot 2 guys dead because they pointed a gun at our officer. Sorry, you shouldn't have pointed it at us. Guess what? The governor's right there saying, well, he did his job and we're backing him 100%. And the state attorney's standing right next to him saying the same thing.
There you go.
We have a level of government that works. Not to say Florida's perfect and we all have our crazy people down here and our issues down here like any other state, but we handle the shit when it comes up.
And see, I mean, and well, I guess COVID was kind of going on, and I actually did a little live stream about this on my other channel. It was quick. It was with a phone. It didn't come out that great, but there was a memorial here in St. Augustine, the nation's oldest city, I might add. Um, it was a war memorial for fallen Confederate soldiers during the Civil War. But it just had their names on there. There were a couple cannons at it. It'd been there for 50 years or whatever.
Probably longer than that.
It wasn't praising the Confederacy. It wasn't trying to make it like it wasn't for slavery or anything. It was just that men that lived in this area that had died during the war, and they were fighting for something they believed in, freedom and liberty. The whole Confederate War, and this is what kind of irritates me, because if you look back in history, part of it was about slavery, yes, but it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that at all. That wasn't even the main issue. It was about taxation without representation, in that the South was more of a agrarian, is that the right word? Agrarian society, where they grew stuff, they farmed and stuff like that. They didn't have as much representation because the population was less.
Right.
Versus the industrial places like New York, Chicago, stuff like that. Was Chicago even around back then? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, nothing on this monument espoused slavery or anything like that. It was people put this monument there in 1960 something. It had been there a long freaking time. No, it was there long before 1960. I can't remember when it was put there. But anyway, I was working at COVID was going on, in that a lot of businesses were closed. This was a particular restaurant that was being remodeled anyway. It was great that restrictions were on for me, because it was downtown on like one of the busiest streets in St. Augustine, King Street. And there was never any place to park, but because of businesses being closed and whatever, because COVID, there was nobody there for the most part until the thing about the monument happened. But I was always able to find a parking place. Now,
I remember hearing about that, because they say the St. Augustine mayor is a little corrupt, kind of, from what I've heard. Because I remember hearing about
I don't know about the corrupt part. I mean, she was just a little lefty, and it wasn't just her, I mean, in a lot of ways, St. Augustine is considered one of the places where I'm looking for the right word, where Black liberty happened, or whatever, civil rights. St. Augustine had a lot to do with the civil rights era in the 60s. Martin Luther King was here. I've heard a lot of crap that went down. A lot of it was bullshit. You know, a lot of it was racist bullshit. But that's how people thought at the time. But I'm just, see, and my whole point is this is what drives me crazy about the way they drive the race car these days is that so much has changed. And like Trump days, bringing up affirmative action and all that. Steps have been taken, and in many cases, gone too far. You know how a pendulum swings back and forth on a clock?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the pendulum at one point was way too far over this way, and I'll agree with that. Injustices were done. There's no doubt. I don't dispute that. I didn't do any of them. I'm sure you didn't do any of them.
The last 2 generations.
Yes,
really.
exactly. I'm like, get over it. Just be yourself. Be a good person. And no one is going to pay attention to the color of your skin. Like MLK said. And this is what drives me crazy about the left-wing media, is that MSNBC, CNBC, I don't know all of them, but they look at everything through the color prism. No, it's about character. It's not about color. Character, not color. And people of all colors have good character, and people of all colors have bad character too. I mean, there are no racial boundaries to that. So you can't look at a person and tell whether they're good or bad. No way. You have to know their character first. So let's see. I think I've covered everything I've had to say. There's only one person here.
That's probably me.
Probably
So.
just you, Justin. So,
I got to get off anyway because I got to make dinner here pretty soon.
that's cool. I haven't eaten all day. So later, man. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to get something on my channel, and I appreciate you hanging around. Okay. Talk to you later, brother. I'm gonna hit the button, Harry.
Oh, don't forget Jim's on tonight at 8 too if you want to.
Okay, if he wasn't on last night, was he?